Hey everyone, it's Sevy. Chaos Zero Nightmare just recently launched, and already it's gotten quite some attention in the gacha space. Now, I was asked by the brand to try out the game myself so I can share my transparent thoughts about it. They are sponsoring this video, but that won't stop me from sharing certain critiques I have of the game, as well as, of course, highlighting what I actually really enjoyed. If you haven't heard of Chaos Zero Nightmare, it's an anime gacha game with turn-based card combat and deck building, with heavy emphasis on its roguelike core gameplay. It's pretty much a 2D game with visual novel style storytelling modes, but we'll explore all these aspects a bit more later in the video. Now, a quick disclaimer that I am coming at this from more of a casual perspective, not as someone who wants to min-max everything on my characters, all my resources, and be on top of progression from day one, because to be honest, I already have what I consider my main games. So if you're in the same boat as me, maybe you're curious as to whether Chaos Zero Nightmare is still worth checking out despite that, or whether it's worth having it as a side game or such. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to do this next part without the camera so that you can see the entire combat UI and just take it in and look at the different elements on it. I think if you don't enjoy the combat of this game, then it's hard to imagine that you'll enjoy the rest of the game as a whole. So we're going to start off with the combat and let's see how you feel about that. From a casual/beginner perspective, the basics are easy enough to get a hang of. At a surface level, you have basic cards that either deal damage, shield, or heal. You can even preview how much damage they deal to the enemy or how much you heal by, giving you more confidence in your decision. And then cards have an action point cost, and at base, you start each turn with 3 action points. But as you go along, you uncover more and more complexity to the combat system. I personally actually needed a guide to really understand the mechanics that weren't so evident, so that's probably my newcomer perspective coming out. But there are things like card tags that you'd want to get familiar with, such as exhaust, retain, unique, and these can have significant impacts on your discard pile, your draw pile, your AP usage, and other aspects. One key feature is that characters have epiphanies to upgrade or unlock more cards into your deck past the basic cards that you start out with. So aside from the cards in your hand, you also have systems for partner skills and ego skills. As you're using action points and hitting the enemy, you accumulate ego points, and these can be spent on either partner skills or ego skills once you have enough points to deploy any of those skills. The ego skills, well, actually all the skills here, they do have animations, but the ego skill is based on your character combatant, so it's kind of like their ult. They play this really cool animation that comes with it, and then there's this big effect that's kind of supposed to have a wow factor to it. And then partner skills, those come from partners that you equip. And real quick, partners are kind of like weapons where they give you stats and they can be activated for a certain effect. So these kind of enhance the card-based combat to liven it up even further. And then on the enemy side, they have things like an action countdown, an HP bar, a tenacity bar which can be broken to stun them, and enemies also have type weaknesses for you to exploit in order to deal more damage. Now, I'm not going to go through every single detail of the combat because this isn't about to become a guide. I just wanted to show you, at least on a surface level, a lot of the elements that you're dealing with here. But what I thought was at first pretty straightforward card combat, it turned out to reveal more interesting mechanics to interact with. And the more complexity I found in it, the more interested I was in figuring out the combat and playing it more, and also unlocking and upgrading more cards for my characters. I'll give you a closer look at the characters later, but a quick example I can give you about a really impactful character is this free character, Mika, and she has cards that basically increase your action points. I haven't unlocked a lot of the unique ones, but she has one that already gives you an extra action point, which is crazy. But anyway, I'm coming from a relatively newbie perspective, and I would say that the earlier stages of the game, they don't punish you for not knowing a whole lot of the deeper mechanics. So you do have enough time to brush up and test out different synergies and get a hang of how the combat system works. Also, there's an autoplay button, but there's no ×2 speed button. And honestly, I find the autoplay mode kind of questionable, but that's beside the point. Another mechanic that they actually did emphasize in the marketing of Chaos Zero Nightmare was the Mindbreak Mechanic, wherein the characters, if they take too many hits, their stress hits a limit on this purple bar, and then they mind break. Now, the mind break state, it carries over between continuous battles. And When a character is in a mind break state, it can go rogue, and it has debuff cards that enter the deck, and also your max HP is lowered by 30%. And these debuff cards, like, you can select them and then they can have like random effects, or they can have no effects even. And then if you play 5 of them, or whatever the limit it says there, you get a discounted ego skill. In terms of this Mindbreak mechanic, I honestly don't feel that hot about it right now, because I feel like the payoff of the discounted or the free ego skill isn't really big enough for the debuffs that occur, or the potential debuffs that occur when the character gets mind broken in the first place. So right now it just feels like something that you just want to avoid. Like, you don't want your character to take too many hits, so you do have to deploy shields effectively. Of course, you don't want to die, so you also have to heal effectively. So right now, it's a good incentive to just make sure you are using your shield utility, and shielders here aren't useless. So I wonder if that's something they're going to switch up in the future, or if it's just, you know, a thing that they're putting there and they're telling you don't let your character reach their limit. Even if you get this very interesting, very vivid art of them in their mind broken state, that's like, okay, girl, I hope you're okay. You know, like, chill. But that is one mechanic that they did emphasize as the game was coming out, and I'm kind of interested to see, or rather I hope that they switch it up a little bit in the future as well. Now let's talk about the roguelike content of the game, and this is a huge part of Chaos Zero Nightmare actually. So it has most of the familiar roguelike elements where, you know, you can choose your next chamber, you can stack up buffs so that you get stronger as you progress through it, but also this is where you can tend to upgrade or unlock a lot of the cards for your character's decks, and also acquire equipment. And through doing those, you can basically increase the quality of your character's build. Now, I really enjoy the roguelike mode, which here it's called Chaos Manifestation. Aside from it being fun and your main way of like upgrading the builds of your characters, it's also pretty intuitive to understand. Like, you have a map down in the bottom that you can use to like chart a path, and then you also encounter some interesting scenarios where you can just talk to the enemy and maybe they'll give you something, or you have to figure out a little puzzle instead of going through combat. And then there's also a campfire setting where you can either rest or do some training, which will give you some extra effects. And of course, as you get stronger through it, you can start tackling the higher levels, you can start tackling the higher stages. And this is just where you can focus up your character builds towards whatever state of perfection you're going for. And you're helping your husbando or waifu reach their full potential. So if you're a fan of roguelikes and card-based combat, this is a really interesting way of how they executed it. And I think, like, I find it pretty enjoyable. There is, however, one mechanic that puzzles me a bit. And like, I've been seeing quite a bit of stir around it. And this is the save data value. So if you look at characters, the save data, you can see here it's like X terabytes, right? It's a kind of like the numerical grade or quality of your build. You start your characters with a base save data, and then as you go through your runs, that gets higher and higher the more you're able to build your character and their deck. But at the end of the stage, the roguelike stage, it's not guaranteed that your new save data will be retained in full. So let's say that this stage says save data value very low or save data value low, and it means it's way less likely for you to retain high level save data. Now, Nightmare mode, which is a mode that you can access if one of the characters has experienced mind break, this is a more challenging mode, and it also has different effects for you to interact with, and it also has higher save data caps. So if you really want to start getting higher level builds, this is basically where you go. Anyway, apparently, if part of your save data isn't retained, then what gets removed is random. As in, what it removes isn't up to you. It's gonna feel bad if, like, you go through the run and then you acquire like a really good card that you want to keep in your deck, but then suddenly it's gone and you wish that you could have thrown away a different card because you really like that card. So maybe that's something that they'll rework, but overall, I really enjoy the roguelike experience of this. Now, apart from the combat core gameplay of Chaos Zero Nightmare, another kind of side, gentler, softer part of their gameplay is actually Arc City. And this was where you can do like the casual side game stuff or like the little slice of life modes, because here you can interact with characters. You can see their sprites, you can even visit them in different parts of the city and talk to them a little bit, and that helps build your affinity. I will say though that the interactions are quite short and they feel a bit limited right now. I do hope that like the more affinity you build up, the longer and more meaningful the interactions are. But also, since this is visual novel style, like the presentation of it feels a bit limited, especially if you're used to playing 3D anime games like myself. But another thing that you can do is that Arc City is where you bring in characters for trauma treatment. To me, this personally doesn't feel super fleshed out, because it's like when you treat a character, you either like wipe their memories or have them go through counseling, and then the counseling is kind of like you can choose different responses or different options, and I guess this is also to like pull out different lines from the characters and maybe get to know them a little bit better, or you can just like wipe their memories, and then sometimes they tell you that that's better, or sometimes you're out of resources to actually counsel the patient. And I actually wonder if there's like more story potential there, because right now the dialogues, they feel a little bit shallow, but you know, as you keep going and maybe as you potentially keep mind breaking more of your characters, whether accidentally or intentionally, I would hope that there's a bit more depth to that later on. Those are some of the core content that you would want to pay attention to whether or not you enjoy it. But I'm going to share with you one thing that actually might be my favorite part of Chaos Zero Nightmare, and that is the monster design and environment art. So, if you can't tell yet, Chaos Zero Nightmare is set in a post-apocalyptic timeline where everything is just despair and darkness. Like, everything is horrible. You literally have this whole mind break thing where characters are like reliving their nightmares and confusion, and everything just sucks. Like, people are dying. When you encounter scenes in the roguelike where there are like victims tied up and bloodied, and it's kind of horrifying, honestly. And the art, in my opinion, it doesn't hold back on that. When it registered to me that like how gnarly the enemies looked, I was like, oh my god. I don't play a lot of horror games, but this is actually a straight up sci-fi horror, like based on the based on the art and the enemy designs. And sure, it's in 2D. If you look at the different enemy arts, there are some of them I've really been like, oh my god, that's disgusting, or that's terrifying, that's gnarly, I kind of hate that. But also it's kind of satisfying, like sometimes how grotesque and scary and like mutilated and mutated some of them are. But this, to me, I actually really enjoyed like the design of the different enemies, and also the environment design of the different combat scenes. It complements that very well. So aside from really enjoying the card-based combat of the game, I enjoy the combat scenes themselves because I really like how the sprites move, how the enemies move, and then the environment art that comes with it. Now, before I get into some of the aspects that I want to show you live, I'm just going to quickly mention the storytelling of Chaos Zero Nightmare. So far, I honestly haven't found the story particularly compelling. Like, post-apocalyptic themes, they can be very interesting when done very well, but also it's kind of done a lot in games these days, so sometimes it takes something really interesting to make those shine. Another thing is that I'm not super into like the visual novel storytelling style, especially because I am accustomed to like 3D storytelling as it is, but I know that a lot of gacha games do employ visual novel style storytelling. So if that's something that you're more used to or that's more familiar to you, then this actually might be more up your alley and you might enjoy it a little bit more. A lot of the interactions or a lot of the replies that you do have in the story is kind of just like talking to your combatants or the characters, basically, as you are the captain of a mission, of a ship, and you're trying to like go through different operations and missions. A bunch of it is quite fan servicey, like you'd easily be able to tell, like the characters are simping for you. It's a lot of self-insert, and those, honestly, those are things that I know are quite typical to like the gacha games and such. It's not one of the aspects of the game that I'm really emphasizing or that really drew me in. Now, let's move on to the characters. I wanted to look through the characters live with you guys for this video, just so I could like give you my first impressions, like totally fresh, totally off the top of my head. Now, first we do have one guy, his name is Luke. He looks alright to me. He looks like he's got like a ninja thing going on. He's got like the tattered cloth, and he looks mysterious and all that. It honestly doesn't stand out all that much to me. It's not super striking. Now we have Calipe, and this is like, honestly, this is pretty intense. She has a bird. Like she's got a bird with her. She's got a whip. She's ready. This is a pretty cool design. This, well, if you like cat, oh, that's bouncy. Then we have Rin. Her red eyes look very dangerous. We have Orlia. Do you like nuns? And then we have Mei Lin. She's super cute. She looks really bubbly. I like her outfit. Okay, I think she's cute. We have Veronica. She looks really cute. Then we have Renoa. She looks really badass. Okay, guys, I'm not a furry, but it's a hear me out. And then here we have Chiron. He's a pretty normal looking dude. Then we have the rate up Haru. She's thick. That's fun. Now for the 4-star characters, we have Selena. Whoa. Wait, I actually like her outfit a whole lot. And it's bunny girl moment as well. Look at that huge gun. We have Tressa. And then we have Amir. Amir is... she's very abundant. We have Maribel. Whoa. Oh, dude, I thought Amir was abundant. I don't know what's going on with Maribel, but okay. I see what's happening here. We have Mika, we have Beryl, we have Cassius. Wait, what? Damn, this is pretty cool. This is a playable character? Dude, I want him. I think this is like pretty sick. This guy surprised me. Like the presence of this guy surprised me. So I think he's pretty cool. And he's a 4-star though. I actually thought that maybe he'd be a 5-star if they fancied his design up a little bit, but I think that's pretty cool. Now, the characters, like they do have their main designs, like in their character screen, but then when it comes to their presence in combat, you get their cute little sprites as you're looking through your cards and then they're attacking and stuff. And as you're previewing the cards or as you're readying the cards, and they have their animations where they're either showing you like their whole backside or they've got some fun pose while they're waiting for you to make your decision. So there are different things that you can enjoy about the characters, or at least different views that you can enjoy about the characters. And honestly, I think that those are pretty nice touches. I do hope that there are more ways you can interact with the characters in the future. And speaking of animations, I was going to show you the different gacha banners, and honestly, like there wasn't anything here that surprised me all that much, except for this thing that's behind my camera. So this is Observe Prism module, this banner. And it's a gacha banner, and this seems to be like a form of a cosmetic banner because it says Prism modules are items that add animation effects to a combatant's cards. And you can select a desired 5-star combatant to obtain that combatant's Prism module. We have the limited time beginner banner. After you use X number of wishes on it, yeah, it also gives you that warning where it says it will ruin your daily life. After you spend X number of wishes on it, the banner is going to disappear. It says after 50 rescues, you'll be guaranteed a standard 5-star and yada yada. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Oh my god! No way! No way! I got the man! Oh my god! I got... Ooh! Oh! It's like some normal stuff for gacha game launches. And then we have the normal rescue. These are for the combatants or your main characters, and then these are for your partners. And then on the characters, at the 300 mark, you basically get a selector, like after spending 300 wishes on this. And then these are your rate up. So right now, again, Haru is rated up, and then this is the partner that's rated up. So all normal stuff. And then the hard pity is 70. There is a 50-50 though. So, that's just the essential gacha info stuff. Unfortunately, I think it's a bit too soon for me to tell whether or not the game is generous in terms of pull currency, and also how necessary it is to really go and pull for 5 stars based on any power gaps or anything like that. I think that's something we'd have to find out or observe as the lifespan of the game goes on. Those are the main aspects of the game that I actually wanted to cover and show you and talk about and share my thoughts about. I know this wasn't like a super scripted video, but I really just wanted to be candid candid with how I feel about Chaos Zero Nightmare, especially since it is in early days. These are some fresh thoughts still. But yeah, if you are interested in picking up Chaos Zero Nightmare, especially because it is a free-to-play game, like you can try it for free. Like the main things I would say that you see how you feel about is the card-based combat, the roguelikes, and the characters. Like for me, that's honestly the main things that I pay attention to the most in any game. Personally, I think that it's actually like a pretty enjoyable side mobile game. Like some of the other aspects of the game could use more depth, but as it is, like, to me, I would just play it as a side game. Like, I tried it out on mobile. It's a pretty pleasant experience. It runs pretty clean, at least on my phone. I'm not sure how it runs on like lower spec phones, but since it's not really like a 3D open world game, I wouldn't expect the load to be very heavy. That being said, if you have picked up Chaos Zero Nightmare or if you've been playing it for a little bit, I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments, how you feel about the game so far, and if you've been enjoying it, and maybe some critiques that you also have of it. Now, that's going to be all for this video. Thank you so much, Chaos Zero Nightmare, for sponsoring. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and I will see you soon. Take care!